Rick and Morty the anime has been widely regarded as a flop since the very first episode was released on August 15th, with reviewers running to Google and IMDb to put forth their constructive criticism. But after I left a review of my own, too complicated to write a theory on, I began to wonder, was the show actually a failure? And what was the real reason they made this if it clearly wasn't for the fans? So I decided to do some research, watch the new episodes, and you'd be surprised to know that... Hello everyone, I'm that anime theorist. Have you noticed a recent upsurge in anime adaptations of Western media? We've gotten the Marvel anime, Ninja Batman, Cyberpunk Edgerunners, Scott Pilgrim, and even a Suicide Squad isekai. But most notably of all, Cyberpunk... I mean Rick and Morty the anime. If you haven't heard about it, this spin-off anime hasn't received the best attention, especially due to the large negative response after a very confusing first episode. But was it really a letdown for everyone? Specifically, was it a failure in the eyes of Adult Swim, the fans, and the creators of both the anime and the original series? But before we get to everyone's expectations of the show, we should ask ourselves, who wanted Rick and Morty the anime in the first place? Jason DeMarco, that's who. If you don't know Jason DeMarco, you were like me a couple days ago. That is, until I saw this interview, where I learned he was the executive producer responsible for greenlighting Rick and Morty the anime. And let me tell you, the more I dug into Jason DeMarco's history, the more everything started to make sense. It all started with little old Jason, who happens to be the co-creator of Toonami, the program that many credit to the rising popularity of anime in the US. All hail Jason. From featuring Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon in the 90s to now featuring more niche titles like Zom 100 and Uzumaki, Toonami has been at the forefront of pushing anime into the mainstream. So after Jason noticed clear references to anime in Rick and Morty, he recommended that they should do anime-themed shorts for Rick and Morty, which Adult Swim jumped at the idea of, and began reaching out to independent directors like Tagashi Sato and Tagashi Sano, with their first shorts like Samurai and Shogun and Rick vs. Genocider yielding them massive success, left Adult Swim with only one question: how do we do more? So they called back up Tagashi Sano, who was very excited to take the project on, and the rest is history. Now, given Adult Swim's long history with the anime community with Toonami, and the fact that this touches their most glorious IP of Rick and Morty, what lofty instructions did they give to Takashi Sano? Did they give him some wacky new characters to incorporate into the series? Did they give him some super niche topic that they've been waiting to touch on? Or did they ask him to explore a unique narrative structure or storytelling device that would add a new layer of depth to Rick and Morty and the universe? Nope. They told Sano they don't want him to touch anything coming up in Season 8. That's it. Okay, that might be a bit reductive. They wanted to keep the show separate from Rick and Morty, so they asked Sano to stay clear of some select topics, essentially making this Sano's version of Rick and Morty. Now, I'm no expert, but that sounds like fan fiction. It's not fan fiction. But it's not. Okay, whatever. Whatever you want to believe, the show had a lot of creative freedom, allowing Sano to take the IP and do things the original series could never do. But as production was underway, the studio and producers were kind of confused with Sano's vision.
Sometimes I ask him the question, so is this story meant to be like this? And he's like, no. And he explains it to me, and I still don't understand, so...
Aw, so Adult Swim is like a supportive parent that doesn't really understand you, but still supports you anyway. That's kind of beautiful. I'm not crying, you're crying. Okay, so in the eyes of Adult Swim, it's really only a failure if Sano thinks it's a failure. Guys, I'm seriously not crying. So then, what are Sano's expectations for the anime? Well, of course he wanted to pay homage to the original series. Kinda like, fan fiction. It's not a fan fiction. Jeez, okay. So he wanted to stay true to the original story while expanding beyond it, and doing things the original series has never done before. In an interview with The Direct, he was commenting on many new avenues he was excited to explore, including a multiverse within a multiverse, to confuse things even further. Congrats, Sano. If that was your goal, you nailed it. He also wanted to explore a serious love story for Morty, which we definitely haven't seen in the original series. Cough, Jessica, cough, that one girl with the glasses, cough. Wait, did I just read the coughs? Sano wanted to approach this like a long drawn-out story and avoid episodic adventures. But most of all, Sano wanted the fans to enjoy it. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Rick and Morty is not nearly as popular in Japan as it is in the US. Despite that fact, Sano is a huge fan of the series and really just wanted to make something his fellow fans would enjoy. Unfortunately, if the success of this series has been pushed from Adult Swim to Takashi Sano to the fans, then this might be a failure. Because, well, how do I put this gently, Sano? They hated it. Let's start with the animation quality. Don't get me wrong, you can have successful animation with a unique animation style. Take a look at some of my favorites like Ping Pong the Animation and Dorohedoro, which each do something really unique and groundbreaking with their animation without being publicly hated. The problem is, you need a rock-solid story behind it to make it work. It also doesn't help that even the small anime lately have been released with insane animation quality. Look at Dungeon Meshi or the Suicide Squad animation, which, Adult Swim, you produced the second one too, so, what's up with quality control? As for the actual content, Sano, I have a question. You said in an interview, time is a taboo you didn't want to explore. Sano, why is this whole season about time? Sano? Yeah, the biggest thing that fans were upset about was the plot. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I racked my brain trying to figure out the first episode to make a cool theory, and I couldn't come up with Then does its 1.5-star review make the Rick and Morty anime officially a failure? Surprisingly, no. You're forgetting there's one more person who has vested interest in the anime. A person whose expectations are far more important than Adult Swim's and Takashi Sano's, and subjectively even more important than the fans. That's right, we're talking about the show's creator, Dan Harmon, who of course wants the original series to succeed above all else. In fact, he's even been quoted in saying Rick and Morty is designed to go on forever, with the potential for 1,000 seasons. That being said, it's difficult to stay relevant for that long. Well, how do shows like The Simpsons remain relevant for so long? By releasing a new season every year since 1989? Wow! And nearly every adult animation does it. South Park since 1997, American Dad since 2005, Archer since 2009, Bob's Burgers since 2011, and the list goes on. But why? Because if they missed a year, they risk becoming less relevant, not only to the media, but to the mind of their viewers. Especially when series like Futurama, Solar Opposites, and Smiling Friends can easily take the show's place, and in some ways kinda are. So then why is relevance so important at a time like this? Well, it just so happens Rick and Morty Season 8 was delayed another year, meaning it would go 1 to 2 years without a season. Now, Rick and Morty is a bit of an anomaly, as it's done this before in 2018. But what was different about 2018 was they were coming off their biggest season yet. Pickle Rick's episode had recently won an Emmy, and the Szechuan sauce was brought back to McDonald's on a limited time basis. Rick and Morty was becoming not only popular, but seeping into the mainstream, as opposed to now, where Rick and Morty is coming off of its lowest rated season yet, and they're struggling to put together the newest season after the actors' strike in 2023. What Rick and Morty needs is a little bump in relevance until they can release their next season to hopefully redeem themselves. And would you look at that? Rick and Morty the Anime, a series based off the extremely successful anime shorts, which Adult Swim executives conveniently call bumps, likely because they give a bump in relevance until they complete the main show, which in this case is exactly what they needed. Good, bad, ugly. The result didn't matter as long as Rick and Morty's name remained relevant for yet another year. If it had succeeded, Rick and Morty would have garnered even more prestige and name recognition. But since the show flopped, Dan Harmon will appear as a savior to provide another season of classic Rick and Morty to the masses. Dan Harmon has the perfect scenario for his show that gives the series enough light to get to their next season without losing relevance. And honestly, that's all he needs. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to subscribe for more anime theories, as I'll have plenty more coming up, especially if you like Hunter x Hunter. We're back, baby! Woo! And with that, stay curious.